Hello, everyone. It's a big pleasure to be with you again. Today we have our friend Vincent Guyonnet again. I just want to remark that Vincent was one of the first webinars that we did almost 3 years ago, and where it's a big pleasure to have Vincent again with us. Vincent has been very active lately, and we have this subject that is really something that the industry is going into that direction. Digitalization of the poultry sector, a key of sustainable growth. We think that this is the way, and we need to put more attention into this conversation globally. And like always, this webinar will be recorded and it will be in our YouTube platforms and in our in our webpage for being able to watch it later. So Vincent, thank you very much for your time, your passion, and for your willingness to support this conversation. So the time is yours. The webinar will be around like 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and then we will have a space for questions. And thank you, Vincent.
Well, thank you, Rodolfo, and thanks for the introduction. Real pleasure to be with you again and to discuss, the importance of the digital transformation for the poultry sector. I started talking about digital data and the use of artificial intelligence in the poultry sector, about 5 years ago. And at that time, very few people appreciated the benefit that the sector could derive from artificial intelligence. And I think now there is not a single day without artificial intelligence making the headline in the news. So artificial intelligence is better understood, but its implementation in the field is still lagging, and mostly due to the poor digitalization of the sector. So one disclaimer before I start, I'm a consultant to the poultry sector, and I also currently serve as an advisor to Intelia Technologies, a Canadian company that specializes in the use of real-time field data to assist poultry producers and processors. And I will illustrate my presentation with a few applications developed by Intelia Technologies. Oh, sorry. So, the poultry and egg sector have registered tremendous growth over the past 10 years, much faster than any other animal production sector. We're making really a significant contribution to human nutrition. Between 2012 and 2022, we've seen that we've been able to produce an extra 29.3 million ton of chicken meat and 20 million ton of eggs, which means really an additional 3.7 kilos of meat and 41 eggs available for each person on the planet. So, congratulations are in order, and the sector is really contributing to food security. But the challenge ahead of us is huge. By 2050, in about 25 years, we need to be able to feed 9.7 billion people that's an additional 1.7 billion people from now, and most of them will be in Africa and Asia. 70% of the people would be living in cities, meaning that they will need to purchase food rather than produce their own food. And also with a rising level of income, we expect a 73% increase in meat consumption, with poultry meat the dominant choice. And we need to achieve all these results with only 5% more arable land. So, raising more animals will not be enough. We'll need to be more efficient and ensure that we do preserve our limited natural resources. And the sector is already facing some tough challenges, as we can see on this slide. Certainly producers are facing higher feed costs, pressure from retailers to produce more for less. The well-being and welfare of birds under our care is more and more challenged by NGOs and other vocal groups who have often very little knowledge about poultry. Consumers, NGOs, governments are also frequently challenging, the impact of animal production on the environment. And the poultry sector must consistently innovate to create new market segments, develop new products, and increase its share of the market. And when consumers more and more remove from the rural environment, we need to make a dedicated effort to better communicate with younger generation of consumers. And finally, we must find ways to attract and retain future talent for the sector. The poultry sector is still very labor intensive. In a number of countries, and including in Canada where I live, it is extremely difficult to recruit farm workers, and we have to rely more and more on foreign workers to accomplish some of the most labor intensive tasks. And the COVID-19 pandemic suddenly highlighted the fact that the heavy reliance of the sector on manual processes and showed us that we need more automation and digitalization. And the use of AI and automation of certain tasks should certainly be welcomed by the poultry sector. For example, we are still weighing birds manually, meaning a relatively low frequency of obtaining that information, meaning also some rather stressful time for the birds, and also some possible risk of injuries, and meaning also that we have many possibilities of errors through human intervention. So smart automated weighing systems allow now a more accurate recording of daily weight of birds and flock uniformity, allowing us for a better informed style of managing flocks. The poultry sector is rich in data, but too often we gather and collect data just for the sake of getting the data. We look at the numbers on a daily or weekly basis, but we rarely have the time and opportunity to use the data from a strategic and proactive standpoint. So we have the data, but we likely, miss a lot of information that data could tell us. And the other problem with data in the poultry sector is that 90% of the farms still rely on the old paper and pen method to capture information. So it makes the data recording extremely tedious and the interpretation of the data quite difficult, as we need to first transcribe the information into a computer before we can try to understand what the data is telling us. Data are a great source of knowledge and the main driving force behind artificial intelligence. I attended a conference with the Huawei, the Chinese telecommunication giant, back in 2019 in Shenzhen, in China. And they use a similar slide to illustrate the current problem with data in any business sector or industry. So only 10% of the data is digitalized, meaning that data are in a format that we can easily use for analysis. 90% of the data remains undigitalized and therefore are not available to use for comprehensive analysis. So should we really be asking about our need for a digital transformation of our sector? The item listed on these slides are, I believe, self-explanatory. We're facing in many countries shortage of labor. We're struggling to recruit younger generation of workers. Human intervention, such as capturing data on a piece of paper or even on a computer, are prone to mistakes. Data entry errors, transcription errors, failing to write the data, and so forth. So, and also human intervention means a lower speed of action and reaction compared to automated digital systems. So this has an impact on productivity, on animal health and welfare, and also on food safety. So the digitalization of our sector will address all these points and will contribute to the sustainable growth of poultry and egg production. So welcome to Poultry 4.0 and the truly connected poultry house. No more need for manual recording of data, quicker responses to predefined situations, and a thorough and continuous monitoring of numerous parameters, all impacting the health and welfare of birds. And we are fortunate that more and more manufacturers of equipment offer probes and systems that can automatically measure and record the data for us. The widespread use of connected devices and sensors on farm will greatly enhance our ability to gather data. And remember that data is essential to derive knowledge and prediction from artificial intelligence. And by 2050, experts from the World Bank, estimated that the average farm will generate daily 4.1 million data points through the use of Internet of Things, sensors, and devices. And to make the most of this vast amount of data, we will need to rely on the analytical power of artificial intelligence. So I will now spend a few slides to talk about artificial intelligence and what it will mean for the future of the poultry sector. The field of artificial intelligence, started in 1956 with the idea of developing a fully intelligent machine. So in essence, a machine behaving like the human brain. And the human brain has indeed, phenomenal structure with about 85 billion neurons connected through an even greater number of synapses. And these neurons and synapses create a vast network of connection estimated at 180,000 kilometers in length. So since the learning process is an important component of intelligence, the scientific field of AI has been often described as a field attempting to reproduce the characteristic of the brain of a child. So this definition means that artificial intelligence is attempting to create machines able to learn from experiences and also transfer the knowledge acquired in one area to another area. We know that various parameters will impact the weight of broilers at the end of the growth period. So have listed on this slide some of them called features in the field of AI research. So these parameters relate to the birds themselves, the environment in which we raise the birds, like the temperature, duration of lighting, the feed composition and the feed consumption, and also some characteristics of the entire flock, such as the flock uniformity. So I've listed here 13 parameters, but there are likely more parameters that will have an impact on broiler production. If we were to define an equation using these 13 parameters to predict the outcome of a broiler flock, the model will be extremely complex and it cannot be done by the human brain. So for the purpose of defining the best equation for prediction, we are now able to use machine learning models divided into supervised learning and unsupervised learning. Supervised learning required more time to train a machine, as one of the first steps will be to label each data entry. For example, we can associate a group of these 13 parameters mentioned in a previous slide with a particular production value. Whereas unsupervised learning can be used to segment data and identify, for example, clusters or groups of good performing or poor performing flocks or group of birds. So let's look at an example where we want to predict the weight of broilers at the end of the growth period. We've decided that we should consider 7 parameters, listed here in the green box on the left. We collect first a large amount of data where each set of these 7 parameters is associated with the exact weight of a broiler at the end of the growth period. So this is our training data. And maybe we have 10,000 sets of data. And using the supervised learning, a coefficient stimulating each connecting synapse within the neural network is defined in order to provide the best outcome, that is the weight of the broiler at the end of the growth period. And the program is run repeatedly to improve its performance and minimize the difference between the true weight and the predicted weight. So this is the visual representation of the type of neural network we will use for the purpose of machine learning. Each circle can be considered as a neuron, that is the cell of the nervous system, and the arrows are the synapses, that is the connection between the neurons. So in this example, we have on the left the level for the input of variables, which is also called the input layer. And on the right, we have the output layer, that is the results provided by the machine when it is given some specific variable. And in between these two layers, we have another set of neurons, also called here hidden layer. So when a neural network structure has at least one hidden layer, we refer to this learning process as deep learning. So the acquisition of labeling of data is a time-consuming and necessary step before being able to train the machine. We can see here an example given in a recent paper from the University of Georgia, when they gathered and labeled pictures to train a model to detect floor egg laying behavior. So the key is to clearly label what the computer must see and learn. And the same process has been used by Google and others to train models to identify for us pictures of a black cat with a red hat, for example, or any other type of search that we may wish to conduct through search engines. So the term artificial intelligence, is broadly used for a wide range of application. It may be linked to artificial or computer vision, speech recognition assistant. Remember, Siri from Apple or Alexa from Amazon are examples. Natural language processing. But a very important field of AI is really machine learning and the ability to get insight from that vast amount of data. And obviously, the good news is that we currently have commercial application of AI within the poultry sector. But let's look briefly now at sustainability, both from a consumer perspective and also from the poultry sector side, to try to understand some of the challenges we are facing and how the digitalization of the sector will help us. So speaking of consumers, we can see that we have some significant changes in the global demographics and consumer needs. By 2027, just 3 years now, the Gen Z, people born between 1998 and 2016, will be the largest demographic segment, representing 28% of the global population. And combined with the millennials, so those born between 81 and 1997, these two generations will represent more than half of the global population. And another key learning and change with the arrival of younger generations as our main customers is the importance of lifestyle values in their food buying decisions. So with younger generation of consumers, some research showed that 57% of them were willing to change their purchasing habits to help reduce their impact on the environment. And another surprising finding was that 70% of them were actually willing to pay a premium up to 35% for brands that are sustainable and environmentally responsible. So therefore, the environmental sustainability and sustainability overall must be a key driver for the poultry sector. But as we know, sustainability of the poultry sector does not depend only on the environmental impact. We can see here the 3 pillars of sustainability with some specific consideration for the poultry sector. Economic sustainability, extremely important for the long-term future of our sector, and also involves elements such as productivity, cost of production, price and profit, but also our ability to generate more consumer demand for our products. On the social front, animal welfare is certainly top of mind for consumers, although they are struggling to understand the complex relationship between health, nutrition, living condition, and animal behavior. And other elements linked to the social sustainability of the poultry sector, our food safety, poultry worker health and safety, human welfare, and also the availability of sufficient food for everyone. So we have many elements to focus on to improve the sustainability of the sector, but also we have many opportunities for artificial intelligence to assist us along this sustainability journey. So let's look at some examples with the economic sustainability of the sector and how the use of digital data will assist us in many cases to improve efficiencies, reduce the cost of production, and also boost the profitability of the sector. As we've seen earlier, we need more digital data on our farms and operation. And we are very fortunate that more and more manufacturers of equipment offer probes and systems that can automatically measure and record the data for us. So now this does not mean that the farm workers should not look at these parameters. but at least the recording part of the task is now performed with a much higher accuracy without human intervention. And then once the data are collected on the farm, the next step is to transfer all the data into one central location. So it's best to upload the data automatically to avoid any error and missing data. Data will be directed towards servers on the cloud, allowing for the safe storage of data and also to gain access to great computer analytical power through the use of supercomputers. So the first information provided back to the farms are a summary of the results of the current flock. Service providers have designed some very user-friendly interfaces where the producers can easily see a summary of the key parameters on the single screen. And these mobile phone applications, allow farm data to be truly accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But obviously, the true power of artificial intelligence on our farm is to allow us to optimize production via the thorough analysis of all the data collected. So, data mining is the new goal for farmers, and AI, will assist us to cash in. We saw that data are critical to AI during machine learning process, as machine learn from example and vast amount of examples. But this learning can be accomplished only if we have the data that are relevant and accurate. And again, using resources from the cloud, vast amount of data can be analyzed quickly and also shared to various people, which is an important consideration for large farms with multiple barns, different production sites, and many farm managers. So, and again, the true potential of AI is to provide us with advanced notice for a particular outcome. So to illustrate this point, let's look at an example from Intelia Technologies, specializing in using field data to predict the performance of broilers on farm. Using data from a wide range of sensors, measuring, the bird weight, temperature, feed and water consumption, humidity, ammonia level, and many other parameters, they can predict with the real-time data the future performance of broilers. So this service can give producers a 14-day visibility into weight prediction with excellent accuracy. And the self-learning algorithm, allows to further improve the prediction. So the more flocks and data into the system, the better the prediction. And we can use similar models to predict and manage the weight of pullets, for example, at sexual maturity. And we can implement corrective actions if the prediction of the weight is underweight or overweight. So really, this is an excellent tool to mitigate or enhance a predefined outcome. And artificial intelligence is also used to maximize operations and connect best the farms with the processing plant. Plants operate at a given speed, processing a certain number of birds per day. They also prefer to deal with birds of similar size and weight, as it simplifies the plant setup. So typically, some workers will work with farm production data, often outdated by a few days, to work on the processing schedule. And this process is both tedious, time consuming, and often inaccurate due to the time lapse between the data supplied by the farm and the effective time of processing. But with artificial intelligence, the usual 6-hour exercise to plan processing activities based on bird availability, volume needed, and labor force available to accomplish can be accomplished in a few minutes, sorry. So better accuracy of the planning and much faster results. So this is one of the most recent application of artificial intelligence in the field of poultry processing. And like on our farm, AI has the potential to help us address some of the key issues faced in processing plant. At the top of the list, we recognize that certain tasks performed by workers in our plants are extremely repetitive, physically painful and tiring. And the lack of real-time data maximizes the risk for production losses and provides no possibility to reward workers based on actual performance. So and also the speed of human intervention is also a limiting factor, as one person can handle only a certain number of chicken carcasses of eggs per hour. So we are already seeing a range of AI-driven application in meat processing, contributing to greater efficiencies. Again, the most widespread use of AI in plants is the use of robots that are able to perform repeatedly simple but essential tasks. Another example is the application of artificial vision in various processes where, after the appropriate training step through machine learning, the artificial vision performs a number of tasks, such as the inspection of carcasses, but also can do weighing and grading of carcasses or shell egg, for example. And maximum efficiencies of poultry processing is achieved when we combine artificial vision with smart automation, increasing both the speed and accuracy of processing. For example, broader parts are inspected and sorted automatically, meaning both a higher processing speed and accurate packing of premium value product, translating both in more satisfied customer and also more profit. So I put this slide here just to remind us how complex, artificial vision really is, why vision is so natural to us. Creating machines able to recognize, understand, and analyze fast-moving objects has been quite challenging. And, while cameras will take pictures that cover the entire chicken carcasses, the in-depth analysis of the carcass will be performed only on a tiny amount of pixel, therefore the challenge. So certainly in terms of marketing and communication, we have already entered the digital age. Some within the poultry sector are already there and others are not. But the future of communication is digital with numerous social media platforms. Poultry sector must be present, and certainly we need more young, graduate savvy in this field to help us, to help the older generation improve our messaging and communication. So digital marketing has truly changed the retail model, and we can truly talk about a revolution. Before the digital revolution, model was linear, with retailers being the only one with the opportunity to interact with consumers. So we, as farmers, producers, processors, were removed from the dialogue, and we had to do expensive market research studies to better understand our own consumers. In 2018, there were about 7 billion Internet of Things or connected devices. By next year, this number will almost triple, with a global average of 3 IoT devices per person. So this hyper connectivity, using all the available tool of artificial intelligence, has really changed drastically the retail model, and this time to the advantage of the poultry sector. Because if in the past, the linear retail model from producers to consumers limited the interaction the sector could have with consumers, the digital revolution is now placing consumers at the center and allow the different stakeholders within the value chain to attempt to capture their attention. So this direct line with consumers is an opportunity to communicate with younger generation of consumers about product, of course, but also about the many sustainability initiatives implemented by poultry producers and processors. So let's discuss now about environmental sustainability. In November 2021, a minister from Tuvalu, a small Pacific island nation, did emphasize during his speech to the COP26 the catastrophic effect of climate change, stressing the potential consequences of rising waterline. In the mind of consumers, the sustainability of food choices is important. And it is now accepted that many human generated activities have an adverse impact on the planet. The increased emissions of various gases have an impact not only on air quality, but also on the composition and quality of soil and on water quality and temperature. And some of these gases also have the potential to contribute to global warming. So the challenge of feeding our growing global population contributes also to more land use change and also deforestation in order to produce more foods. And although there's about 18 categories used to monitor our impact on the planet, consumers mostly understand the concept of greenhouse gases and carbon footprint. In this slide, you can see the greenhouse gas emission presented for each livestock and poultry value chain. So the production and beef and milk are responsible for most of these emissions with 41% and 29% respectively. The production of poultry meat and eggs represent only 8.4% of the emissions of the global livestock sector, with a total of 600 million tons of CO2 equivalent, 200 for the egg sector and 400 for the poultry sector. And if we drill further down to identify the main sources of emission of greenhouse gases by the poultry sector, we can see that between 74.5% and 86.7% of these emissions are related to feeds, and between 6.4 and 20% are linked to manure management. And these two areas should for sure be our main focus to reduce our impact on the environment. And the other key learning from this slide is also that all the post-farm activities like transportation, processing, and further processing of poultry and egg accounts only for 6 to 7% of the total emission of the sector. So the emissions from poultry feed occur primarily during crop production, with the use of fertilizer, the use of fuel in the vehicle that are used to care for and harvest the crops, and as well as for the transportation of all the raw materials and finished feed. So these are direct feed emissions, and most poultry and egg farmers really would have little control over the production of crops. And as you know, the different grain used by the sector contribute differently in terms of emission expressed in kilogram of CO2 equivalent per ton. So one way to mitigate the impact of poultry feed will be for nutritionists to incorporate an environmental impact of ingredient into the formulation process. Another component of feed-related emission is related to land use change or the conversion of forest areas for crops or livestock or urban development, affecting the capacity of soil and vegetation to store carbon. For example, in Latin America, the soil production is more affected by land use change, as we can see here from data presented with soybean and soybean oil from Brazil. So the more agricultural production is linked to deforestation, the greater the contribution of land use change. So therefore, mitigation strategy also could be to select feed ingredient produced in region with little or no deforestation. So as I mentioned, most of the emissions coming from feed are linked to the production of crops, and poultry farmers have typically no control over the production of feed ingredient. So for these reasons, the emission from feed are reported as what we call scope 3 emissions, emission imparted to our products, but not under our control. But it is, however, very comforting to know that there is a lot of research currently being done in this area with numerous applications of artificial intelligence to improve our understanding of local soil conditions, the need for fine-tuned application of fertilizers and soil amendment. So, other type of AI applications allow, for example, to better observe crops through a cloud cover, because clouds typically affect about 70% of pictures obtained from satellite. So to address the scope 1 and scope 2 carbon emissions from feed, so those directly under the control of poultry producers, we can anticipate more research and application of artificial intelligence to develop new feed formulation models where, in addition to the least cost formulation requirement, we will also have a least environmental impact component. And AI will, in this case, assist us in managing the vast and extremely complex set of data and complex computation rules to calculate emissions. And we are fortunate to have some tools already, using the power of artificial intelligence to manage this huge complex database, incorporating information about the various impact categories to assist producers identify the best mitigation strategies to reduce the impact of poultry and egg production on the planet. So finally, let's look at the third and last pillar of sustainability, social sustainability. In this pillar, we typically address animal welfare, worker health and safety, and as well as food safety. So the application of AI on poultry farm is probably best known for the use of robots who can perform various tasks. Some of the advantages of the robots are self-evident. Presence in the chicken house 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. And this robot can, for example, motivate breeder birds to lay the eggs in the nest, or can manage the litter to prevent the presence of weight spots and therefore a range of pathologies directly linked to poor litter management. And overall, these robots will contribute to higher profitability and welfare. So I'm going to show you here an example from China when the robot goes along the aisle of an egg layer barn to monitor carefully and continuously the health and welfare of birds. And for many years, research was limited by the availability of software application, access to sufficient memory, and also, computing power. But we have now these resources available to advance research in the use of computer vision to assist us in the monitoring of the health and welfare of our birds. Some real progress has been made over the past few years, and I'm very confident that the use of AI-assisted computer vision will soon be a technology implemented in our barns and even mandated by large retailers and food processors, demanding by NGOs, or even expected by consumers. And another use of AI is linked to the possibility to track and geolocate animals. And this has been done for some time with the larger animals like cows or pigs. But it is only recently that we have access to small and inexpensive radio frequency identification devices that can be placed on birds. And these devices are allowing us to capture specific information about birds, tasks that remain still difficult with artificial vision system due to the small size and speed of birds. So researchers in Australia, for example, have studied, free-range laying hens, combining different technologies such as these RFID, video cameras, optical flow pattern, and image analysis to study the birds and try to understand their behavior. And they were able to identify patterns followed by birds, observing that some birds will never go outside while other will prefer certain location. And using the full extent of different AI derived technologies, this kind of research is going to improve the housing systems and also the way we monitor and manage our birds. And the use of AI will certainly have an impact on productivity. But this new application of AI will also assist us to further improve the welfare of birds under our care and therefore reinforce the overall sustainability of the poultry sector. The field of diagnostics and interpretation of histology slide is certainly prime for the use of AI. Here, the animal health sector greatly benefit from the great advances made already in the human health sector. In the medical field, it is common now to use AI to interpret X-rays for the identification of cancerous cells. So in this area, AI will not replace veterinarians or histopathologists, but merely, facilitate their work as they can focus on the most problematic cases. So this is more the situation of a collaborative intelligence with the machine assisting humans. So anytime visual observation made by veterinarians or experienced field managers constitute the first clue of an impending problem with the health of the flock, AI and machine learning will be the ideal tool to enhance our detection of these early signs. For example, the aspect of bird feces is often described as an early sign of gut health concern, including coccidiosis. Let's talk also about AI and access to information. ChatGPT was launched toward the end of 2022, and gained tremendous popularities for its well-constructed and detailed answers to a wide range of topics. I'm sure everyone heard or read that ChatGPT passed with flying colors the New York bar exam, completing the test in 6 minutes. So we all appreciate that quick access to accurate information will assist us in our daily work and help us make the right decision in terms of bird management and many other aspects of poultry production. And I had the opportunity to test a poultry AI chatbot developed by Intelia Technologies, and which was a specially trained version of ChatGPT with over 700 documents and 31 million words dedicated to poultry. And my question to the chatbot, addressed a wide range of questions dealing with nutrition, bird management, diseases, and welfare. And this poultry chatbot, did answer my question quite well. But the system will always be as smart as the information that it was initially provided. So meaning that the data must therefore cover, a wide range of topics and must be current. For instance, any reference to bird performance, be it water and feed consumption or weight of at a specific day for a specific line of birds, must be related to the latest data provided by genetic companies. But overall, my impression was conclusive. It is like having in 20 seconds full access to massive textbooks, numerous breeder manuals, and a direct hotline to, a few PhDs. However, when I asked the chatbot the reason for finding an egg in my broiler barn, it also showed its limitation. So the bot went first into a long explanation about sexing errors and genetic variation with broiler exhibiting egg-laying behavior, before finally mentioning as a third option that the egg may have been brought into the barn. For all of us, this is the only possible explanation. We know that broilers are not raised long enough to reach sexual maturity. We know it, and that's common sense. But ChatGPT and AI in general are still struggling with common sense and inference. So if a statement of fact is not inputted into the training data, it cannot be deducted currently from other facts. So, I hope my presentation up to this point has given you enough examples of ways the adoption of AI and digitalization will improve the sustainability of poultry and egg production. But How can we move forward and truly maximize the use of all the data we generate on a daily basis on our farms or in our plants? And yes, the road has not been easy up until now, but I believe that we are finally reaching the tipping point. So I have borrowed this slide again from Intelia Technologies to outline the 5 main stages in our implementation of AI in the poultry and egg sector. First, we need, digital data. And that digital data is transferred into a central database. The data is quote unquote clean, that is prepared to provide some standard reports to the farmer and plant managers. Up to this stage, the data is used to describe and analyze the current situation. So this is what we call here the descriptive analysis. But obviously, the true value of the vast amount of digital data is to use AI for predictive analysis. So we are now using the data to make a prediction on what will happen. And again, current application of AI in poultry production are mostly at this stage. But with more data and machine learning algorithm, we will reach the next stage called prescriptive analysis. And here AI will work alongside managers and provide some recommendation to avoid the issue observed or to meet specific production targets. So this is what we can also call the collaborative intelligence, with people working alongside machines. And few companies are at this stage currently. And finally, the last stage called cognitive analysis, when the machine will be able to initiate by itself some corrections. And while this stage will be technologically feasible, it will require a paradigm shift in the human problem-solving approach. Are we ready to relinquish full control to a machine, regardless of how well it is trained? So, the roadmap to apply AI as a means to improve the sustainability of poultry production is clear. We must first gather lots of digital data, and this will require investing in a wide range of connected sensors, probes, and cameras. The automatization of the data collection will allow us to collect more data and accurate data. That is no human intervention and risk of error. Then data must be stored, managed, analyzed by trusted service providers, as we all recognize that companies are very protective of their data. And once sufficient data have been collected, machine learning algorithm will be developed and applied to make predictions. And at each steps along the way, just like any new technologies, previously adopted by the poultry sector, I can think, as an example, the now routine in ovo vaccination method. We must remain aware of any invisible consequences, and therefore, as the poultry chatbot told me itself, AI must be tested and implemented responsibly with a proper oversight. So for anyone, worried about the growing importance of artificial intelligence, I would like to reassure you that artificial intelligence still cannot accomplish tasks that humans can easily do. For instance, computer vision systems still struggle when exposed to this type of picture and asked to count the number of zebras. Given enough time, people can do it. So future application of artificial intelligence will really be about collaborative intelligence, where machines augment the human capacities rather than replace them, and people will be working alongside machines. But it is, however, fair to say that while AI will not really replace workers, I believe that workers using artificial intelligence will replace workers that do not. So data are essential to manage any business, and the poultry sector is not any different. we must have good data to help us identify shortcomings and opportunities for improvements. And the digitalization of data is the best to be able to be directly used. The vast potential of artificial intelligence, contributing to higher productivity, improve animal health and welfare, and to a more sustainable poultry supply chain can be achieved only with digital data. Our consumers, especially younger generation of consumers, are demanding more sustainable food supply chains. And the digitalization of the poultry sector is one smart way to meet their demand. It's a win for consumers, it's a win for the planet, and also it's a win for the poultry sector. So with that, I thank you for your attention, and I will be pleased to address any question or comment that you may have. And also, please check out the Poultry School website for more lectures available.
Vincent, thank you very much for your presentation. I'm very impressed. And I have maybe two main thoughts from your presentations. The first one is in some line when you start, you were saying that maybe 5 years ago, nobody was really putting attention to artificial intelligence and all these new tools. And now daily we have interaction with one way or another with this concept, not just in our industry, in the poultry, but everywhere. And one of the last lines that you just dropped, I think is the main core message here. AI will not substitute human employees, but the employees that will use AI will substitute the employees that they are not using AI. I think it's a very dramatic and transparent, raw concept, but I think we need to get used to these realities. And like I say, not just in poultry, but anywhere. So I think is put attention to more to this new trend of the industry. I don't know, Vincent, if you can see in your screen the question and answer window. We have two questions. If not, I can read it for you.
Okay,
Rene,
read it for me, please.
Rene Caher said, as mentioned, the degree of digitalization is still rather low. What do you see of being the main cause of the reluctance to adapt faster?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, the comment we made earlier that 5 years ago, when we talked about artificial intelligence in poultry, people didn't even know what artificial intelligence was. Now, at least when we talk to producers, they all heard about artificial intelligence, not necessarily application in the poultry sector, but they understand, they've seen what it does in other fields, right? So really, for us, it's the next step is really to drive the digitalization of the sector. It's to convince producers that it is worth investing the $5,000 that you may need per barn to be fully automated in terms of data collection. That's so there is a cost impact, but once you are able to work with producers, the return on investment is huge. It's there. We have demonstrated in a number of cases that you will benefit from this investment. But as always, the poultry sector is a fairly conservative sector. We don't like changes. And when changes, in addition to that, required some level of investment, we are very cautious, right? But I think we have sufficient data now, sufficient proof of the huge return on investment. And it's not just profitability, it's also the image that the sector can convey to consumers. Again, we adopt the latest technologies not for profitability. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear that we are doing all this to improve the sustainability, to improve the health and the welfare of birds under our care. I think this is the
Yeah,
key
agree.
messages that you know, we need to communicate with consumers. We do this for the good of our birds, which is true. But it is fortunate that not only the digitalization will benefit birds, but also will benefit, you know, producers. So it's a win-win again, as I mentioned, you know, in my conclusion: win for the planet, win for the people, and win for the birds.
Agree, Vincent. So then we have Boris that is just saying that thank you for the presentation. AI is the future. We agree on that. And thank you, Boris, for your comments. And then Shadiur Rahman is just saying that if we can provide certification, of attending of these webinars. Actually, we're working with Vincent in some projects, in some courses that already are open, but we're going to be working in more type of courses to get some certification. So everybody, thank you very much. Vincent, thank you very much. I think was a great presentation, and we love the simplicity and the way that you present your concepts. And I think that if we don't have more questions, as always, this video will be available in the next couple of weeks. And let's keep close to Vincent's social media and to Poultry's Call social media. And
Yeah.
thank you, Vincent. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
Rodolfo, I just want to say, yeah, that's true. That, you know, artificial intelligence can be extremely complicated, and my role is really to make it. Is not to make it complicated. It's just to, in broad stroke, explain what it can do for our sector. You know, we could get easily lost in too many technical terms
Agree.
and information. So really, it's the basic concept that we need to absorb. We don't need to know everything. We just need to know that it can happen. But for that, we need digital data.
Okay, so thank you very much to everybody, and see you in the next one. Thank you, Vincent.
Bye. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.